Hey now, and how are you doing? Want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Man, today we're going to bring my friend James on. Man, this guy is all perseverance. Actually, they call him the professor of perseverance. I can't wait to hear his story. We were just having a talk in the green room, and man, wow, I can't wait to bring some of that into here. And let's get started. How are you doing, James?
Hey man, I'm flowing like a good sip of wine, man. We're in good shape.
All
So
right. All right. So I'd love you to introduce yourself. I mean, I can tell everybody all the things you've done, but it's better to hear it from you. What brought you here today?
yeah, I like to pat myself on the back when I can get the opportunity. So I appreciate you allowing me to do that. James Purdue, it's just James Purdue. I do have a doctoral degree, and some people want to call me doctor. And I tell them I don't get overwhelmed with the doctor because I can't write out a prescription for you, but I can drive you to your pharmacy if you really need me to. So, but yeah, my just James Purdue, and uh, got in a wheelchair playing game of football and just was the old story. Y'all never walk again, maybe not move from her neck down. And it was my family was advised to place me in a nursing home at the age of 19. And
Mm.
fortunate enough that we were all hard headed and didn't listen.
Well, I think that's what you have to do, especially when you hear that type of news at 19. How'd that happen? So you said you were playing football, I guess high school football or
Well, I
19
was
20 college.
2 weeks into college, but I was on a baseball scholarship
Mm.
and I had professional teams scouting me. And in the fall, again, I was only there for 2 weeks. In the fall, we got to play one game. I got to play one game. Everybody else did the fall season, but got to play one game in the fall, and I was the only freshman starting for our team.
Wow.
The next day, got up and it was on a Sunday and went to breakfast and campus there and saw some people playing football, and it was just a pickup game, no helmets, no pads, but was playing tackle football.
Mm.
And so we'd been out there probably like 2 hours. And I remember telling the people, hey, I need to get my stuff ready for class next day. And so I said, been out here for a while. I'm getting tired. And so walked out of the huddle. I was done playing for today. And then I heard someone say, we need someone to run the ball. I said, all right, I'll come back for one more play.
Oh boy.
And that one play has put me where I'm at today. They handed the ball off to me. Broke a couple of tackles, scored a touchdown. And when I was turning towards the field, putting the ball down, another guy continued playing. And I saw something on my right side, my peripheral vision. Don't I just saw something. I don't know what it
Right.
was. And so then I felt contact about shoulder high, heard a loud pop. We
Mm.
both go to the ground, and that day, only one of us returned to her feet, and it wasn't me. I was paralyzed instantly.
Wow. And so that sounds like it was high on the vertebrae, right?
C four, five, and six, three vertebrae got
Whew.
fractured.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So,
Wow. I can't imagine at 19 hearing those things. I mean, feeling those things is completely different. What were the first things that went through your mind?
the first thing I tried to get up because the guy hit me.
Yeah.
I wanted to fight. Okay, I thought my collarbone was broken on my right side when I heard the
Mm.
pop. Thought it was collarbone, and of course, I grew up thinking I was invincible, stronger,
Mm.
and always get over everything.
Yep. Yep.
And I
Don't we
was
all?
Yeah, and I was left-handed, so I thought I'll get up and fight him left-handed. I'm tell you, I ain't putting up with this. And so I lift my head to get up. Nothing followed. Shoulders didn't come up, arms didn't come up, definitely legs didn't come up. And so I put my head down, tried again to get up. Nothing happened. And the old saying, three's a charm. Tried a third time. Wasn't no charm in that package this time. And so laid my head down knowing this was bad. And it first thought I went to, well, very first thought was I'll never play baseball again. So I started crying because again I wanted to be the next Nolan Ryan or Babe
You're
Ruth.
you're a
To
pitcher.
yeah, I pitched and hit, and so I was going to be our Oh, tiny back then. No, of course, back then they wouldn't allow you to do both positions, but I was hoping to be there. And but so I knew I would never go play again. But the very next thought came to my head. I thought this man named JT. When I was 12, 13, 14 years old, 11 years old, my grandfather was in a nursing home, and we used to go visit him. In a room before my grandfather's one day, this new patient got moved in, and I was walking past his room, and this guy says, "Hey, buddy, can you help me?" I said, "Yeah, I'll go in there." And he says, "I'm thirsty. Could you hold that cup with the straw so I can get a drink?" And I noticed he wasn't moving from his neck down.
Mm,
And old JT, he was in a car accident in his mid 30s and paralyzed. And so all of a sudden, when I realized I was paralyzed, I'm thinking of JT,
mm.
and I was going to be in a nursing home. Is what I really thought.
Yeah, no, sure. How can you not? Especially you saw a young man, at 30, not many people are in a nursing home, and with the same thing that you were feeling at that moment. So how did you persevere, right? You're the professor of perseverance. How did that first set of perseverance? I'm sure that's not the only one we're going to hear, but how'd you get through that?
Well, after I was in the hospital for 3 months. More, you talking? I've talked to other people with spinal cord injuries, and they said, "Yeah, I was out of the hospital in 2 weeks and in rehab." And so back in my day, yeah, I was there for 3 months
Wow.
before they sent me to a 30-day rehab, and then sent me home. Um, I really believe. I mean, I don't know everything went involved, but I really believe my competitive spirit from playing sports jumped in that this is going to be my new game to play, you know, and always wanting to win and beat, you know,
Yep.
and so
Show,
I've always
show,
had the
show everybody.
mentality.
Yep. Show everybody something completely different that they haven't seen before.
Yeah. And so just, yeah. So I think the me being competitive all them years is what put me in this competitive drive to do what other people can't do,
Mm,
and just to lead the way and make things better for anybody else that comes up. Because we know I did the old selfish prayer when I first got hurt in the emergency room. To God, and I wasn't a Christian then. I think I became a Christian in my mid 30s, but at that time it was like I knew there was a God, but hard to believe in one because of so
sure.
much bad that goes around, and but I did the old God, if I'm the last person to get paralyzed, I'll take this and I'll take this burden for long as no one get a stupid prayer like that's going to stop somebody else being paralyzed.
Right.
But that was my bargaining chip, you know. And so again, I just threw it all together and just want to have the best life possible and hopefully be an example for the next person coming up.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one of those things that, you know, being a servant leader. I mean, you're definitely a servant leader. You were telling me about your coaching, and we'll get into that. But that's what it is. You already accepted the fact of what was happening, and that's why we make those prayers to God, because that's the first level of acceptance, right? Saying, okay, this is where I'm at, God. Tell me why. I mean, I do that all the time. Just recently I had a heart thing, and I'm like, God, tell me why. Like, not what am I not paying attention to? For me, and that things like that really start focusing you. So how did you focus? So you had the 3 months were rehab, and they kept on telling you, you know, to prepare yourself much for a much different life than you've actually lived.
And it was I got hurt again September 11th.
Oh wow.
Before everybody else had their September 11th in 2001. Mine was in 1983 before our country had it. And so September 11th, on Halloween night, I first started moving a muscle in my leg.
Mm,
And so that gave me more confidence from there. But also, I just didn't like when I went to rehab and went to in Birmingham and went to rehab. I didn't like what they were trying to teach me, but I was young and dumb and didn't understand.
mm,
I'm going, I got movement in my legs. Why aren't y'all trying to help me try to walk again? They were trying to teach me how to live life in a wheelchair,
mm.
which was more reality than what I was trying to do.
Right.
But I was young and dumb and didn't understand. And so from
Well, but
there,
how can you not be, right? I mean, I don't know that you were so dumb. It's there's our heart, what we want, right? That's the big challenge at times, is we know what we want, right? We know what our heart says and what our heart wants, but sometimes what our heart wants and what our body could produce, two separate things. I mean, when I played baseball, I could hit a fastball. That wasn't the stuff that scared me. I don't care. Give me a curveball. Yeah, with a base with a wooden bat, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with an oar from a boat. So, but it's one of those things that so you knew that you wanted to walk again. That you wanted because you had some mobility in your legs. You had some movement in your legs.
I had got yeah, and that I knew I would never play baseball again. That was I knew,
Yeah.
but I figured I would be up walking once those muscles started coming back. And in the hospital, they were doing some exercises and trying to help get strength. But then when I got to the rehab, they didn't one time do anything to try to strengthen. They was again trying to teach me how to push a wheelchair, how to eat, how to transfer, how to yeah. Again, I understand that now. I
Right.
didn't then. I'm going, but why aren't you working on my legs?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, it's. But I always thought that first 5 years, I went to 18 different rehabs trying to find that cure, and every
Mm.
time I'd come back disappointed because nothing helped, and come back. So finally, the last time I went, and it had been by 5 years, I finally. It turned out being a big lie. Lied to my family, lied to myself. That I said, not that I'm giving up, but we need to put this walking on the back burner. That if I want to have any kind of life, I need to go back to college and get a degree to help me get it, a job and stuff later in life. And so that's what I ended up doing. Well, that ended up being a big fat lie. Again, at that time, it wasn't a lie. It was for comfort for everybody to feel we've done our best. Let's move on. Okay. And the only reason I can say it was
Why was it a lie?
because when I made that declaration, I've not one time gone to rehab to try to get stronger in
Mm.
my legs. It was the final, but I was trying to be positive and confident with my family so they wouldn't feel disappointed in what all the work they've done, what I've done, and everything. But yeah, since then, I've never gone one time to try to build strength. Now, during that 5 years, the reason I thought I would walk again, we came home and invented our own physical therapy, basically. And we got where I was able to stand up and walk with a walker for 10 feet. Now that 10 feet felt like I'd run a mile, but but I could stand up, muscle spasms fight me, but I was able to get up on my own, enough strength. So that's why I tell people. I said, the doctor said I'd never walk again, so I made a liar out of them for 10 minutes. It's just the other 23 hours and 50 minutes they were correct.
Yeah, well, but that's what it is that you could do it. You knew, well, that was one of your first goals, and so how did you then progress, keep going?
Well, again, after we was able to do that, it was so much easier for me to transfer, for me to stand to get in bed, stand to get out, stand to get in my shower and sit on the shower bench, stand to get on and off the toilet. So much easier than having to drag yourself with your arms back and forth. So that really was a great big bonus for me, because I know a lot of people can't do that,
Mhm.
but it was a great big bonus for me on that. And just after that, I got the greatest advice from my older brother. When we did go back to college, he said, all the hard work and dedication that you put into baseball, sports, now you need to direct it into your studies. And that's what I ended up doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and what were your studies at that time?
I went on to wanted to become a educator and coach.
Well, and
So
you did, because I know we were talking about it in the green room. That little basketball behind you, that you brought yourself, you brought your team, or you were part of teams that had some success.
my first teaching job, I actually was with a guy. He was teaching at the same school with me, uh, but we played on the high school baseball team together. And
Mm.
he was coaching the girls' basketball team. It's seventh and eighth grade basketball team. And I asked him, could I be part of the team? I said, I don't know anything about basketball. All I know, if you hit them too hard, it's a foul and you get points for that ball. Other than that, I didn't know defense. I didn't know offense, but I want to be part of the team. And I said, I'll be your conditioning coach. I can make them run, even though I can't run. And so he let me for 2 years be part of the team like that. And one year, the second year, we went undefeated in the county and won from there with him. Well, after that year, he says, I'm stepping out of coaching. It's your team. I said, what? He said, it's your team if you want it. I go, huh? And so I went to this other guy I had met. We became real good friends and asked him if we can work together. And him and I become coaches,
Yeah.
co-coaches, no head, no assistant, just co-coaches. And yeah, after that, him and I, first year, 2 years, I had to learn basketball and really
Oh,
learn what to do, how to play it. And like I was telling you, I think it's 12 out of 15 years we end up going to the our county championship game. Didn't win them all, but we went there. And one year we end up fortunate enough we won the state. So
that's incredible. Okay, I mean, even the county, right? So, the consistency, right? The perseverance to do that. As a ball player, no matter what sport you're playing, there's a perseverance, and you created a legacy in no matter what. How did you teach? Well, I guess you just by volunteering, first raising your hand helped, and then the rest after 2 years, you were the coach, right? You're co-coach, and that how do you teach able-bodied girls? Teenage girls aren't that easy to, you know.
yeah, you can get some struggles
Yeah.
with them getting mad at each other because somebody's boyfriend's in the way or whatever it is. But you can get some attitudes every now and again. But the big thing, Rick, he was a guy that I asked come help with me. He did the physical work, showing them what to do and everything.
Mm,
Okay, my part of end up being is I mastered the defense and
the X and
mastered
O's, right?
the X's and O's is mastered the offense, defense, but he did physically what needs to be, showing him what to do. But then my other big part was the mental game, the mental toughness. Don't let someone take you out of your game, you
Mm,
know. And
so
you
easy.
wouldn't believe how many times I would make the whole team run because one girl got frustrated in practice and would start crying. Don't you cry on my court. One of them tears hit this ground. We're all going to run. And they're all over cleaning their tears off.
Yeah.
So she doesn't. And then I would explain to them afterwards, I'm not being hard on you and everything like that. But don't you know if you break down and start crying, get frustrated in a game, don't you think the other team's going to attack you to get
Hmm.
you out of your game? And so you can't show that on the court. Yes, you can be frustrated. We all been there, but you can't show it. And so, yeah, we ended up being pretty good. Like one quick story here.
Sure.
Uh, we were playing in the summer league, and the team I had, we knew we were going to go undefeated. They were just uh, four of them started as a seventh grader, and we were still able to get to the championship game with two losses. So all these girls coming back, we figured we're going to go undefeated. So we're in the summer league getting things practicing. One game, we're we're just wearing this team out. Halftime, we're up by 30, 35 points. All right. So right before half, I called a timeout and said, all right, girls, we know we can run it, pass them, run and gun. We already know that. Let's slow the ball down. They're here to work on things. We're here to work on things. So let's don't do any running and gunning. If you do, y'all are coming out. And I only had six players show up for this game.
Mm,
Okay. All right. And we're wearing the team out. All right, for the next 2 minutes, they're doing everything, slowing it down. That way, the other team can work on the defense while we're doing all. We can work on half court off defense, and okay. All of a sudden, they took off running and gunning. Boy, they forgot the game plan, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the run, I'm hollering one girl's name, sit the bench. Other girl's name, sit the bench. Another girl's name, sit the bench, because you have to have two people to play. Somebody's got to be able to throw the ball into the one person.
right.
All right. So we got two out there. Referee comes up to me, put the others back in the game. I said, no, sir. He said, put them back in the game. No, they ain't doing it. He says, I'm telling you, I'm going to give you a technical. Hey, I'm not afraid of technicals. I've had three of them and we won games after I got technical. I'm not afraid of them. So sure enough, he teed me up. So then he says to me, while the girl's shooting, the other team's shooting, he says, "Get the girls back on the court." I said, "I'm not doing it." He said, "Put them back on." And they even go to the girls, "Get back on the court." They stood up and said, "Girl who coaches this team." They sat right back down. And he says, "If I tee you up a second time, you know you're kicked out of the gym." And I go, "Well, I can't. I've never been kicked out of the gym, and that wouldn't be a good look for the girls."
Mhm.
So I said, "All right, I tell you what." So I got the three girls. I told them, "Go stand in that corner over there, and don't chase the ball. That way we'll have five on the court." And now the referee's mad at me for that. So halftime comes, and I finally go like this. I said, "I need to go explain to this guy what's going on." Like this. Uh, so I go, I said, "Hey man," I said, "I want to apologize about the technical and what we did." I said, "But look at the score. We're killing this team, and their job was to slow the ball down. No more running and gunning." I said, "No, we're not here to do it. We want them to learn something we want to learn." And I said, "They ran, and I pulled them out." He said, "Well, I saw you only had six people there. I thought you were taking them out to let them rest." I said, "Really? If you think that's it, I'll make them run during this halftime the whole time. If you think that's what it is." And he goes, "No, no, no, I believe you." So, but it was just again, and they learned. And of course, the girls weren't happy with me then when I did that. But a couple years later, they come from high school down to talk to me, and they were laughing about it. So,
Well,
but
yeah, no,
it's
for sure.
just a learning opportunity.
Well,
So
well, that's what it is. It's a different perspective instead of perseverance. But because you weren't doing it because you don't want to show up a play, right? Because about being pushed down. I mean, because when you're getting beat, right? There's two types of games. I would rather lose 1-0 than 20-1, right? And because when you're out, you just give up a little bit, and you were trying to show the other team not only the ability to learn, but also some decency. You knew about decency.
yeah, again, it's for us for both teams to learn something. And again, like I said, yeah, I'm one of the that probably my biggest fault. I didn't like blowing teams out. If we soon as we got in a double digit 10 above, 12 above, I'm letting subs get in and play some to get experience.
Hmm.
Um, but to go up 20 and 25, I didn't like that. So I don't care how bad the team was. I just didn't want them to be embarrassed.
Right, right. There's no reason to
That
embarrass
was my big
somebody.
failure, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a learning lesson, and I'm sure you explained it to the girls why. They might not have understood it, right?
At that
Sometimes
time, they didn't. Yeah.
yeah, sometimes we get, well, like you said, they came back when they were in high school. It's a lot of times we get advice. I always give this, and man, every time I try to say it, it kicks me. When I was 18, I was a really good bowler in New York State, and this guy came over to me. He was in the 60s. I thought he was old at that point, right? What does this old man know? I'm still telling that story now. I'm approaching 60. And what he said is, kid, after high school, the world blinks and it's over. It goes by really quickly. He goes, just appreciate it all. And while I have appreciated my journey, I just didn't know how quickly it really goes. And those are the things that sometimes we plant those seeds to then learn. We don't know when they're going to take. With our children, with the children that you're in there. But you also have created something that I love about how to overcome adversity, right? The Just as simple as ABC. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
ABC. I tell people just do the old real young Michael Jackson ABC. Get as good as one, two, three. You don't have to know that. Just know the ABC. All right. A. Once you accept your adversity, you're ready to run. Okay. It took me 5 years really for me to accept it. Like I said, I
Sure.
told that lie after 5 years because I kept trying to find that magic pill to start walking again. And so once you accept adversity, now you're ready to get the game plan to start winning. All right, to start moving and being successful in life. B, begin your battle. What do we do there? Now we talk to people that's been through what you've been through. If you think you're the one and only that's going through something, get on the internet, you'll find a million people that's been there
Yep.
before you. Okay. May not be 100% exactly like yours, but it's going to be 90, 95% what you're going through, and get advice from them. I mean, I didn't have a spinal cord injury close to me to talk to. So everything we did, we learned by ourselves. I
Mhm.
would have loved to been able to talk to other people who's been through it and give me shortcuts so I wouldn't have to, learn by trial and error. Okay. So, and then again, especially today, everything's on the tip of our fingertips with the internet, Google and everything. So find a mentor, find someone who's been through it, get advice from them. Last thing, conquer your challenge. How you doing that? You're going to take what you've learned and now implement it. And what doesn't work doesn't mean it was a wasteful try. It just doesn't work for you, but it may work for someone else. So now find what's working for you and then move on and have the best life possible.
Yeah, right. You had to play with the cards you were dealt. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Did that gentleman who hurt you? Did he ever come to apologize? Did was there any interaction afterwards? I mean, obviously he didn't. Maybe he didn't want to hurt you that bad, but he definitely crossed the line.
Definitely, I don't believe he meant to do what happened, even though he continued playing when the ball was dead. Okay. But there's no way I could ever believe that he meant to really hurt me. Okay.
Right.
But I think think he came to the hospital to see me once. And the only reason I think it was him, I was on what's called a striker frame. I had screws in my head with
Mhm.
like a horseshoe, the weights on the end of it, stretching my neck, trying to get the vertebrae back in place. So for 2 hours, I'd stare at the ceiling. Then they'd come in, put this canopy thing on top of me, strap me in, turn the whole bed over, and what I was laying on, they take off my back. Okay, so I don't get sores.
Right.
So every 2 hours, I'm staring at the window, the ceiling, and every hour, I'm
Looking at
staring
the
at the
floor.
floor. So every 2 and 1 hour, I'm like, so well, one day I was at this time when they come to visit, I'm staring at the floor, so I didn't get to see anybody's face. Two people come in, we talked and talked and talked, and finally they said they had to leave, and I said, "Cool, go ahead," and whatever, and they left. I heard the door shut, but then I heard it open up, and I heard someone say, "I'm sorry, man," and then shut the door.
Mm,
So I'm guessing it was him, even though I don't know his name.
right.
I'm sure even if I was staring at the ceiling and I wouldn't have recognized his face because again I'd only been there for 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
so yeah I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't even recognize him anyway.
Yeah, I can't imagine. After hearing your story, I've played a lot of ball, a lot of pickup ball, and over the years, and just thinking of how that person must feel. But um, have you ever thought of, or have you ever done that? Again, we talked about God a little bit earlier about forgiveness. Have you given that person forgiveness, even though you haven't seen that person other than that maybe one time?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time now. I'm like you. I just turned 62. I'm too old to hold all that grudge and crap.
Yep.
I hope people have the best life possible. Um, Whatever they have to do, if they, as long as they're agreeing, they feel good about it. Um, if it's morally not wrong, and
Right.
it's um, more power to them. But no, I hope the guy's got to. I would like to meet him, just for to let him know that life hasn't turned out as bad as it could have,
Sure.
and that way, if he has ever worried or thought about it, I could ease. But again, I wouldn't know how to get a hold of him. I wouldn't know.
Right.
Again, I
Right.
don't know
You
his
have no
name or
information. Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
maybe, this is one of those things, you never know how people connect and maybe, through the podcast. I know you do other podcasts, you get out there and somebody's been like, man, that could have been me or things like that. Because I have a friend, I have now two friends, who had a story like that. I don't know if you know about the Disability Dream and Do organization. It's
No, no, I hadn't heard
no,
of
it's
it.
it's a baseball organization
Okay.
run by Doug Cornfield, my friend Doug, and as well as Dave Clark. Dave Clark is the only player to play professional baseball on crutches. It was in the independent league, and he had polio as a young child. And
Didn't they do a story on him?
they've done
See, for
little stories, but
is there's a guy from Canada. I think, wasn't it?
No, no, no.
That's
He
another
lives
guy.
upstate New York, but
Okay, okay,
yeah,
this is different. Okay.
yeah. But so he played, and so in because he had polio as a child. At one point, the story goes that he didn't want to go on a class trip, and then his mother made him go on the class trip. I don't care; they'll wait. One of his friends brought a wagon to pull him along, and that's how they became the polling aware. But they lost touch, as you do in elementary school. Years later, they're talking, and Doug found this Ernie Pyle, and that's where it's not Pyle, uh, Ernie. Found Ernie, and they eventually reconnected, and now they're connected. But those little
Awesome.
moments in life, yeah. So it's if you Google pulling each other along, you'll find that the story. And Dave's a wonderful gentleman. I've worked at some of these camps with disabled individuals. You play baseball, on usually a minor league field where they're working
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to get connections with the major league teams, but to see the kids on the field, because that's also like probably what you mentioned earlier about not having other people in your circle. What that impact would have had for you to know other people that had experienced some of what you had done.
I like to, yeah, I like to get a hold and talk to him. Here in where I live, I went to our parks director be 40 years ago now, 45 years ago now, and told him how inaccessible the parks were. And I was coaching baseball, and my brothers had to get me on and off the field, and there's no sidewalks, and to get me to the park and everything. And yeah, and so I and told him, that we need to have parks accessible for these kids and disabled to be able to play. I said, don't even think about just for me. What about the grandparents that are using walkers
Yeah.
or crutches or in a wheelchair, and they want to come watch their grandson play, their granddaughter play? I said, them
Yeah.
advanced it here to be 15, well, 10 years ago now, that I went and got my service dog in Orlando, uh,
Mhm.
Ricardo. And when I was down there, they were telling me about this field they called a miracle field and how it's accessible for anybody with disability to be able to play baseball on it. So I brought the information back, thought, again, this time it's 30 years ago. And I brought the stuff back, said, this is what I want to get done for them to play ball. And they didn't talk to me much about it. But next thing I knew, the park director took the whole thing by the rein, and he actually got a pedal park where it looks like a highway and
Mhm.
stopping points for kids in wheelchairs to push around. The playground. It ended up being like a $2 million project to go along with the baseball.
Wow.
I was just thinking of the baseball park. He was thinking about
It,
everybody, every way, and it's called an inclusive park that even children without disabilities can use the playground and play with their friends that may have disability. And so we were able to get that. Took 30 plus years to finally see it come, but it finally got here.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and yeah, I'll definitely connect you with Doug, and they
Yeah.
travel the country. Uh, it's a shame, man. Years ago, just Dave got one of his last vans from Tennessee. I remember the van, because he has the motor
Yeah.
scooter. It's a scooter, and there's not every car can do that, and you have to have it you fitted in it properly, as you well know.
Hmm.
So he had one, and then his car broke down, and to find one, and they got one in Tennessee. I remember,
All right.
yeah,
Good
during in the
deal.
middle of the pandemic, it's there's so much that happens that we don't know, and that's where I really love to do that, connecting people with you. And I just recently had Doug and Dave on my podcast, but I've known them for years. I've been given a hard time. I'm like, but it's great being on the ball field and seeing the kids with all different types of disabilities, and they don't use that as a curse word. They just use it as an identifier. Playing, they think they're on Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's great. No matter what days I'm feeling bad, I think about those days, and I'm like, man, I love it. I truly love what I do when I'm able to participate with them, and that alone is worth everything.
Yeah, it's awesome to again give everybody an opportunity. That's all we can do. Whether they take advantage of it, that's them. But give the opportunity to be able to use. And I'm glad that the parks director was
That's
able to do
awesome.
that. He got the mayor and the city council involved with it to get everything approved, and it raised over $2 million to get that thing done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So,
So
how did you get the nickname, the Professor of Perseverance?
oh, thank you for asking that. I try to slip it in every now and again. Friend of mine, John Bentley, we were both in the Speakers Association,
Hmm.
and we had a meeting one weekend, and I was sitting in front, John was behind me, and when I got in, I saw him there, and all of a sudden I heard someone going, "Professor of Perseverance." I don't think anything of it. Professor of Perseverance. I'm just still looking forward.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, John said, James. I turned around and said, Hey, John, how's it going, man? I said, I saw you there sitting here talking to someone. Didn't want to interrupt. He said, You're the professor of perseverance. I said, What? He said, You have a doctorate degree, right? You're a professor. And you want to teach people about perseverance. You're the professor of perseverance. I said, John, I'm stealing that. So now I use that in everything I do.
Yeah, no, it's great because I mean, look at what you've done. Again, an award-winning championship coach. When you didn't even know about basketball. You didn't, you weren't able to coach, but you learned. You kept on pushing yourself to learn and learn. Again, we do lie to ourselves in on all aspects of life, but at one point we get to that level of I can't lie to myself anymore and be our authentic self.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's it. So, um, yeah, even though there was a big lie, didn't realize it then. We used it. It worked out for the best.
Yep,
So,
no, for sure, for sure. I'm glad it did, and I'm glad you were able to share that story. Now, as we get closer to the end of the episode, I always have somebody walk into my magic garden or come into my magic garden. So if you could come into the magic garden, and you've given us a lot of advice, is there one more piece of advice you'd like to share with everybody, or two more pieces of advice? That what I use is the metaphor of planting the seed, and some of them grow like Jack and the beanstalk, and some of them need a little more nurturing. So, what type of advice would you give us today?
I like part of it's a two-parter really.
Okay,
That I like what I think it was Churchill, Winston Churchill. He said, "When you're going through hell, keep going through it."
sure.
Because again, as long as you're going through, and that's what I found out. Saw not too long ago that like elephants and cows, they'll walk through the storm because if they're walking and the storm's passing, then they're in it the least amount of time.
Hmm.
Where we're seeing the storm, we're trying to run to get away from it. So now we're going to be in it longer. So again, it goes back to the ABC: accept what's coming. You don't have to like it, you don't have to love it, but it's here. Life's going to kick us in the teeth anyway. So go ahead and move forward, start doing it, then begin your battle, conquer it, and move on and go from there. And I know other people use the metaphor when you see the light at the end of the tunnel,
Hmm.
that means you gotten through it. And I like to add a little bit to that. When you see the light at the end of the tunnel and you know it's not another train coming, now
Yep.
you got it beat.
Yep.
So
Right. Don't get fooled by the things you think it is. Make sure that it is. Stay present.
that's right. So that's pretty much my good words for today.
Well, thank you, sir, for your good words. How can everybody find you?
I just do the old Google Professor of Perseverance, and you'll see me come up. It's on my Facebook, Instagram, my podcast. It's just Professor of Perseverance, and that'll work.
All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for giving us a little perseverance, giving us a lesson or a lecture on that. But it's it's life experiences. It's more than just a lecture. It's actually a guidebook, and obviously focus on those ABCs.
ABC. Sing it now, Michael. ABC. So, David, thank you for having me on, man. And I appreciate what you're doing to bring other people's stories out to help other people in the future. So,
Oh, well, thank you. And for everybody else, as always, we want you to end you with your life and start peace and love, right? As your foundation, have peace and love in your life and multiply that as much as possible. And then when you're bringing it back, bring awesome thoughts like we heard from James today or the professor. And again, be yourself. Be authentic today. Have a great day and God bless.